So, before I get to the challenges, I'd really just like to start first with talking about some of the great things that I've seen. I don't want to start a conversation with just going right into challenges. I think that there have been some wonderful things that I've had the opportunity in my short period of time to view, whether it's going to meetings, having conversations with Katie, Joe, and Bobby, the rest of the leadership team. I've even had an opportunity to get at least to one region. I'm starting to learn my way around, so Fulton and DeKalb. So I have had an opportunity to go out there and hopefully make my journey through the rest of the state. But what I have seen, which is amazing, is a significant reduction in the backlog. So when I first began my conversations with Bobby, I think the investigation backlog was over 3,000. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're down to under 1,000 in a short period of time, 45 days or so, that we've been able to safely reduce the backlog, and that's a wonderful thing. That means that families are not waiting. That means that we are strengthening our investigations. We're asking the right questions, and we're making good determination, good calls around keeping families safe. I've seen success in addressing the Kenny A outcomes, which is amazing. You have 31 outcomes, and you have been able to successfully address about 25 or 26 of those outcomes. We still have a few that we need to work on, but when you look at your consent and know that you have begun to move, and not just one time successfully completing those outcomes, but multiple periods of time completing those outcomes consistently in the Kenny A. And that's a wonderful thing. Bobby and I were at one of the Kenny A meetings, a G2 meeting, and a lot of folks are talking about, well, we've got to get out of the Kenny A. Like, our main focus is to get out of the Kenny A. And I'd like to change the conversation to, our main focus is to create a state-of-the-art child welfare system that ultimately, if we do that, then we would get out of Kenny A. So instead of having our main focus of getting out of Kenny A, let's create a system that ensures that we improve outcomes for children and families, and getting out of Kenny A will take care of itself. But there's been solid success around that. I've seen great commitment from your regional and county directors. I had an opportunity to participate in a meeting with your regional directors, and Bobby asked a question of the regional directors, why do you do this work? Why are you here? And he asked folks to go around and talk about why they want to be at DFACS. Why do they continue to stay? I mean, from an outsider looking in, if I read the newspaper or had maybe a conversation with a few folks, some folks may be hesitant about wanting to work for DFACS. But these were folks who came out with such passionate answers around why they wanted to be in child welfare, why they do this work, because they believe that they're called. It's a mission for them to improve outcomes for children and families, because they believe that they can make significant contributions to the future of Georgia, which will ultimately be the future of the United States. Because ultimately, it's not just about Georgia, it's about what happens here in Georgia can set the tone for what children and families look like across the United States. And so to hear those answers, you're working with a solid team of individuals that are hungry for a strong vision to move the organization forward. And finally, I see a strong, committed leadership team. It's amazing to come in and be a stranger, if you will, when you come in. But, having the pleasure of working with Bobby and Katie, Joe, and the leadership team, some individuals are here from the leadership team. It's been an amazing experience to, just sit down in a room with dedicated, smart, creative individuals, getting up each and every day, staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning, answering the bell. I have a friend who works in the branding industry, and they say that, they answer the bell. Like, no matter what they're doing, if they're staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't matter. They know that each and every day they have to get up and they have to answer the bell. And Bobby and Katie, Joe answer the bell every morning, and I am pleased to have an opportunity to be a part of this team for the period of time that I'm here. So you have strong, committed leadership team. So with that, I just want to transition really quickly to some of the challenges or opportunities. So first, what I've seen is there's clarity. There's lack of clarity in the department. So there's lack of clarity around the practice, meaning that there is no solid practice model in place in the organization. And I'll talk a little bit about practice models in the latter part. But again, you have individuals, even though they may be bright, they may be committed, there is no consistency in the practice across the field. So for example, if someone says, well, we do family-centered practice, I could be in a room of 50 individuals and get 50 different answers about what family-centered practice means. We have to have consistency in how we practice, from the front end all the way to the back end. So a practice model. There's not currently an articulated vision to help guide the entire staff. I know Bobby has begun to articulate a vision, but we need to really concretize that vision. So when we say things like we want a state-of-the-art child welfare system, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well, what does that mean? What does a state-of-the-art child welfare system look like? So we have to have a clear blueprint so that staff at all levels know the direction that they're going, that they have a roadmap to improve outcomes. And it's hard for many child welfare leaders. I've seen leaders, dynamic leaders all across the country, but when we're in crisis mode, we are unable to vision successfully when we're in crisis mode because we're too busy putting out fires to lift ourselves up to be able to vision for a better child welfare system. Lack of clarity across the field with regard to the safety model or the safety response system. So, there are 2 pilot counties, but the full rollout, of the system. And so there is some inconsistencies around that practice. But again, that also goes back to the overarching practice model piece. And so one of the things that contributes to that, though, is that there have been multiple changes in direction. And so when you have multiple changes in direction, so one minute you may be doing, structured decision making, and another minute you're doing something else, it is hard to practice in that environment because we are changing models multiple times and we're mounting up trainings to do different facets of work. And then the final piece is that the system is siloed. Even within units within the organization, they're siloed. So I've heard about great plans. I'll go to one unit, and I actually talked about the practice model. And they said, oh, well, we're going to do a practice model. That's a part of our CFSR plan, our child and family safety plan, our child and family services plan. But no one else knew that that was a part of the plan that they were putting forward. So while good work is happening, it's happening in our own isolated. So Virginia's off over here doing her own thing. Bobby may be over here setting tone and setting vision. Lee may be doing something in training. And again, it's all great, wonderful work that will move the organization forward, but it's not cohesive. It's not aligned to meet the larger vision of the organization. So those are some of the clarity pieces that I've seen.